I see everybody joining in. Welcome, everyone. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Whether you're joining us from here in Alberta, BC, Saskatchewan, or anywhere else across Canada, welcome. I am Jigar Kanjani from Supply Chain Canada West, and thank you for being here for our session two of our career development series. For those who were with us last Saturday, welcome back. You have spent your past week optimizing your LinkedIn profile. Today, we are solving the next frustrating problem: why your resume keeps disappearing into the void when you hit apply. And if this is your first session with us, don't worry. Each session is designed to stand alone, so you haven't missed on this part at least. Before we dive into resumes and ATS systems, I want to show you something quickly. This is a short video about Supply Chain Canada as an association, what we do, who we serve, and how we are strengthening the supply chain profession across the country. Let's take a look. Sarah, can you please roll the video? Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching that. It's a good reminder that as you're building your career and landing these jobs, you're not doing it alone. You're part of a national network of supply chain professionals who are advocating for this profession, setting standards, and creating opportunities. Now, before we jump into today's session, let me cover a few quick housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded. The recording, along with Sarah's slide deck, will be emailed to all registrants at the end of our three-session series. So, no need to frantically take notes, just focus on learning today. Um, in terms of the audio setup, everyone is in listen-only mode to keep things smooth. We'll have a dedicated Q&A session at the end where I and Sarah would be answering your questions. So please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom window to submit these questions anytime during the presentation, and we'll go through as many as we can at the end of the session. Feel free to drop your thoughts in the chat too. We would love to see your reactions and aha moments during the session. All right, now let's get into why you are really here today. You spent the last week optimizing your LinkedIn profile. Recruiters might be even checking you out on LinkedIn. Your network is growing, everything looks great. But then you apply to a job and nothing. You apply to another one and silence. You apply to 10 more and maybe one response if you're lucky. And here's what's happening behind the scenes. You're not being rejected by humans. You're being rejected by software, Application Tracking System, or ATS. Let me give you some stats that are particularly relevant here in Canada. In Alberta specifically, in energy and oil and gas sectors alone, major companies like Suncor, Canadian Natural Resources, Enbridge, and TC Energy all use ATS to screen supply chain roles from procurement analysts to logistics coordinator to supply chain directors as well. 70% of the resumes submitted to these systems never reach human eyes. They're filtered out before a recruiter even knows you exist. Even if you have 10 years of experience in upstream logistics or downstream supply chain operations, If your resume isn't formatted correctly or missing the right keywords, the ATS rejects you automatically. In Canada, where companies are hiring supply chain professionals to manage complex procurement, vendor relationships, and logistics networks, qualified candidates are being filtered out not because they lack skills, but because their resume don't speak robot. Here is the good news. Today, you're learning how to fix that. Sarah is going to show you exactly how ATS systems work, how to format your resume so it gets through, and how to use keywords strategically so you don't stop being auto rejected and start landing interviews. Whether you're applying to energy companies, manufacturing firms, logistics providers, or any other supply chain employer, that changes today. And speaking of making that change, let me introduce you to the speaker who's going to help you do exactly that. Sara is back with us today. For those who joined us last week, you already know Sara's expertise. For those who are new today, Sara is the Manager of Industry Engagement and Career Services at SAIT, and she's an ICF certified career coach. What does that mean? It means Sara has spent over 15 years helping professionals like you navigate career transitions. She has worked with 300 plus mid career professionals, and her track record speaks for itself, a 72 to 75% placement rate. Sarah knows what works. She has seen thousands of resumes. She knows what ATS systems are programmed to look for, what formatting mistakes get you instantly rejected, and how to position your supply chain experience, whether that's procurement in oil and gas, warehouse operations, freight logistics, or strategic sourcing. So that both the robots and the hiring manager wants to talk to you. Last week, Sarah showed you how to get found on LinkedIn. Today, she is showing how to get past the gatekeepers and land on a recruiter's desk. Sarah, let's do this. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Jigger. I really appreciate it. Again, you're making me blush, so thank you so much. Let's just dive right in. So, Jigger actually talked about it initially. The problem is, like, the reality is when when you hit submit on any major company's career page or small, medium-sized company's career page, the chances are you're entering in the applicant tracking system. This software doesn't care if you have 10 years of experience, 20 years of experience, or if you know the hiring manager, you still have to go through the applicant tracking system. So that system, it scans and scores your application in seconds. So if you don't pass the digital screening, no human eyes are going to see your qualifications. They're not going to even be able to see your resume. And the system will literally delete your application from consideration. So I've seen a number of supply chain directors with perfect experience applied to specific jobs, and they get auto rejected because their resume is not ATS friendly. And I've also seen new grads with zero experience get interviews because they understand how to use and how that ATS system works and how to speak the language of an ATS system. And what's making all of this stuff worse is that companies are getting, like I was going to say hundreds, it's probably thousands of applicants per posting, especially in Alberta, where the unemployment rate is 7.6%. In other parts of the country, it's lower. But here in Alberta, they're getting hundreds to thousands of applicants per job posting. So even if you're in that 30% that gets through the ATS system, you're still competing with others that 30%. So you want the recruiters to be able to see your resume and for it to stand out for them as well. But the good news about all of this is that it's not rocket science. We can once we understand how the ATS works, There's a way of beating that system, and we can even use AI to help us beat that system. And I'm going to show you how to do that in this presentation. So today's roadmap. So this is what we're going to cover. These three core things. And they apply to everyone, whether you're a new grad or a director level, or even if you're a VP level. This will work for everyone. So first things first is decode. And here's where we kind of pull back on the curtains and show you exactly how the ATS reads and ranks your resume. And once you see this process, you'll start to understand your current approach might not be working. And this is the same, again, like I said, whether you're entry level, mid-level, or senior level, it's the same process for everyone. The next thing we're going to look at is design. Design your format so it actually gets through the ATS systems. And this might be frustrating for some people because we always want to put our best foot forward and have the nicest looking resume. Sometimes people pay to have resume writers write their resume, but they're not necessarily using an ATS friendly resume format. This is like boring works. Like the most simple resume you can use is the one you want to work with. And the other thing I want to know is sometimes when you're using those free templates on Microsoft, actually I did this week, the vast majority of the templates that Microsoft provides you aren't ATS friendly. So you actually have to specify ATS friendly templates to make sure you're using the right type of resume templates to get you through those applicant tracking systems. And finally, on the deliver. So there's a content formula that we're going to cover, and I'll give you the templates for that in the summary as well. For a template, for summaries, for the bullet points and the keyword optimizations. And I will show you how to adapt whether you have zero experience because you're a new grad, or if you have 20 years of experience, what you can do to get your resume to pass through. I'll show out specific adjustments for new grads, mid-career professionals, senior leaders throughout this presentation. So there'll be little nuggets for everybody that you can take from my presentation today. And I'm hoping that at the end, I'll leave you with some actionable strategies that you can implement as soon as we get off our call tonight. So let's get right into it. So here's the ATS journey. And this is what every single resume takes, whether you're an intern or you're applying for a VP in a position, this is the whole path that all of them take. So when you apply, your resume enters a queue, and the ATS parses it and it tries to read your formatting. If it can't read your formatting properly, your resume will immediately fail, and this is where 40% of the applicants who apply, this is what happens to those resumes. So if you don't have an ATS friendly resume and you're wondering why you're not getting callbacks, you are likely in this group of people. Then it scores you based on keyword matches. So only the top scoring resume makes it to human eyes. So that's typically the top 25, sometimes 30, but usually 25% of applicants. And only a human will see your resume. When the human sees your resume, they'll only spend about 6 seconds. When I was recruiting, I literally would spend no more than 6 seconds. It's a quick initial scan to see if you have the skills that I'm actually looking for. And then once I've created my shortlist, then I'll do a deep dive in your resume. So this is why qualified people don't get callbacks. The resumes are making it through the journey. So this slide is going to help you think about your way you design your resume, and it will help you make sure that your resume is designed in the right way. So these two professional column templates that you design from Microsoft, unless they have ATS written on them, they're not going to be read by the ATS. What the ATS sees is just jumbled text, and it can't surface or discern what you're actually putting on your resume. Sometimes you have those creative headers where your contact information is in a text box. That too does not get read by the resume. It's completely, or by the ATS system. It's completely invisible to them. So if you put company logos, let's say, for your employers, or graphics or little icons, they don't exist in the ATM. So automatically your resume is not going to get seen. So some of you I know want to stand out with a creative resume, and sometimes I say leave those for the interview when you bring a resume with you to your initial interview, but don't use that resume when you're applying using an ATS system because it's not going to be able to read it. So think of it like boring gets through, creative gets blocked. So that's something I want you to make sure you think about when you're creating a resume. And those of you that are in my age bracket, if you will, think about like 1995 Word documents. Like those are very boring and nothing splashy about them. That's what you want to be using when you're applying on job boards or to a company's website. So here's a checklist for you. It's universal, whether you're entry level or you're in a VP role, these are checklists for you. Single column layouts. Everything flows from top to bottom, left to right. It's just like reading a book. The ATS scans left to right, so don't make it work harder than it needs to. Use fonts that are universal. So something like Arial or Times New Roman, those are the type that the ATS system will be able to read. The trendy fonts and some of those new fonts that you can download, they won't exist on the ATS system, and it's going to show up as blank for them. Traditional section headers are crucial. Use work experience, not my professional journey. Use education, not academic background. The ATS is programmed to look for these standard terms. So don't get creative with, you can get creative with your content, but not with your headers. And I cannot stress this enough, absolutely no tables, text box, or graphics. It doesn't matter even if you're applying for a creative director position, which most of you won't, none of you probably will be, but the ATS system cannot read them. So even in those type of positions, I would not be using those at all. Even if you're a senior executive, even if you went to a top university, the system really doesn't care about your credentials if it can't read them. So it's super important that you make sure, again, I cannot stress this enough, it is a boring, boring looking resume. Here's the structure for this resume. So it works both for the ATS and for the recruiter. So once it gets through the ATS, we still want that recruiter, like I said, is only looking at it for 6 seconds. So you want to make it so the recruiter can find what they're looking for as easy as possible. And everyone follows this blueprint, whether you're entry level or you're mid-career, this is what we're going to use. So starting off, your contact information stays simple. Name, phone number, email, LinkedIn, city. That's it. Don't put your address. Don't put your postal code. Just put these things. Don't put this in the header or footers or any fancy text boxes where the ATS might miss this. Your professional summary comes first for everyone. This is your elevator pitch and keywords introduction rolled into one. So this is going to be where all of those initial keywords are going to be popping up or showing up in here, and the ATS is going to be able to pull them. Next is the core skills section. This comes right after your summary. Skills are prime keyword territory. This needs to be high on your page where the ATS can scan them most carefully. Everyone gets a highlight section. This is your strategic keyboard parking lot. Entry level uses this for relevant coursework like internship and academic achievements. Mid-career, here you focus on technical competencies and your track record. And senior level, you emphasize strategic capabilities and your leadership scope. Work experience follows, and this is where you prove you can do the job. And then education comes later because once you have real experience in your degree, it becomes less important than your track record. This structure is consistent, but your content emphasis changes. New grads might have more education detail and include relevant projects. Senior folks might have longer experience section, focus on strategic impact, but the framework for everyone satisfies what the ATS expects to see. Your professional summary is the most important real estate on your entire resume. It's 2 to 3 sentences right underneath your name, and that serves both as your elevator pitch to the humans and your keyword introduction to the ATS. And here's why it matters to the ATS. The ATS system weighs keywords found early in your document more heavily. So loading your summary with relevant terms gives you a scoring advantage, but it also needs to read naturally for humans who will see it if you get through the filter. The formula works at every level: who you are, what you know, and proof you deliver results. But how you fill it in each piece changes dramatically based on your experience. So line 1 establishes credibility. You're not just saying, I want a job in supply chain. You're saying, I'm a supply chain professional with this much experience in these areas. It's a very confident statement. Line 2 is your keyword goldmine. You pull 3-4 terms directly from the job posting. So if they mention vendor management 5 times, that phrase better be in your summary. If they emphasize cost reduction, include it in your summary. This isn't keyword stuffing, it's you actually having your skills. So if you don't have cost reduction, you don't put it in. And if you don't have vendor management and it's 5 times in the job posting, maybe you don't apply for that job. Line 3, it proves that you're not just talk. One specific achievement that shows you delivered results. So don't save your best stuff for later. Lead with impact now and keep it short. Recruiters will read this section, but they won't read paragraphs. So the 3-sentence max. Like, think more like Twitter instead of an email. So short and sweet. And here's a bit of a tip. Your summary should be tailored. Keep it structured. Like, you're going to tailor the summary for every single job you apply to, because every single job is going to have different key optimization words. So this is where you're going to tailor when you're tailoring your summary. So you adjust the keywords, and emphases are based on each job prioritize. So it's the same you, but different angle. So if one job is emphasizing, what did we say earlier? Cost reduction, then your summary emphasizes cost reduction. If the other one emphasizes vendor management, then you change it to emphasize vendor management. Okay, so this is key for you it's so key for you to tailor this section for every job that you're doing, that you're applying to. So here are some examples of summaries based on different levels. And you'll notice that each one is following the same structure, and they emphasize what's strongest for each person at each level. So for example, the new grad, they lead with their degree because it's recent and it's relevant to them. They mention the certification because it shows initiative. The internship achievement proves that they can apply knowledge practically, and they're not apologizing for being new. Like, that's something that's really important, which a lot of new grads tend to do. They're positioning their potential confidently, and that's what they're looking for. You're going to notice that they don't say seeking opportunity to grow or eager to learn. Everyone's eager to learn. So instead, you focus on what you bring to the table. In my mid-career example, these mid-career professionals, they lead with role and years because they have credibility. They have that expertise. So the expertise line pulls directly from the job posting. You'll note, well, you won't see the job posting, but it does. And the achievement shows real business impact with specific numbers. They're proving they're beyond theory. They're proving that they're beyond theory and into execution. So that's what's important, that execution piece, that they're able to do it. The senior example is everything is in bigger scope. So they're not managing vendors anymore. They're transforming operations. They're not saving thousands. They're driving millions in impact. The language reflects strategic thinking, not tactical execution. What's really crucial is matching your level appropriately. Don't try to sound senior if you're entry level. It's not going to come across authentic. And don't undersell your experience. You'll sound junior. So be who you are and position it powerfully. Each summary also sets up the rest of the resume. So if you mention SAP in your summary, it better appear in your experience section. If you claim cost reduction as an expertise, like I'm a cost reduction expertise, that better be in a bullet point when we get to that experience section. So that is super important that everything matches each other. Okay, this slide might be an aha moment for some of you, because I see when I'm working with people, they're constantly confusing these two sections, and often they're trying to combine them together to save space. But I think that weakens your resume. So if you look at on your left side, your professional summary, this is written in complete sentences like you're having a conversation with someone. It flows very naturally and it tells your story in a way that will make the humans who are reading it want to keep reading. It's like your little mini book, if you will, your mini story. But if you look at the right side, your highlights of qualifications, these are bullets. They're not sentences. They're scannable. They're keyword dense. They're designed for both the ATS algorithm and human skimming. And this is your proof of what you can do. So when I was recruiting, this is where I would look before any experiences if you had the key skills that I was needing for those jobs. And if you didn't have them in here, I would not look at your resume. So this is something really important for people to notice. So the summary engages emotionally, the highlights confirm technically. So together they kind of create that 1-2 punch for recruiters. So the summary answers the question, who is this person and why should I care? And the highlight answers, do they have what we're looking for? So like I said, when I was recruiting, I would skim it. If you didn't have what I was looking for, I wouldn't continue with your resume. I just skip it. You wouldn't be on that pile that I was looking for. That's how we would section out folks. So don't skip either one of these sections. They're very, very important, and they both have specific purposes, and they're crucial for when you're applying to jobs. Also, to be honest, these two, when they're taken together, like they're both the prime real estate for ATS systems. Like I said, the ATS focuses mainly on the top parts of your resume, and this is where it's getting a lot of that search optimization words are coming from these sections of your resume. Now we're going into the work experience section, and some of you, if you were here last week, you will recognize a lot of this because we talked about it in your experience for your LinkedIn, but I'm happy to, we're going to walk through it again for this. This section is where people often blow it, if I'm being very, very frank. And the reason why they blow it is because instead of telling me about their achievements, they just list their duties. So they basically copy their job description and they put it in bullet form in their experience section. Or they write paragraphs instead of bullets, And so it's not giving us what we're really looking for. So we are looking for bullets, and every single bullet point in your experience section should follow that ACI formula, which is up on the slide. So action, context, and impact. And we talked about this one last week, but this transforms a boring job description into a compelling success story. And here's why it's crucial. Your experience bullets need to support what you've claimed in your summary and your highlights. And we touched on that in the slide previous. If you said you're an expert in vendor management, you better have bullets here that prove it. And if you claim your cost reduction expertise, show specific examples in this section. The ATS will also scan this section for keywords, but it's different than the summary. Here, it's looking for context and application. It wants to see those keywords used in action, not just listed. And for the human reading, they're looking for pattern. But I'll be honest with you, like I said before, if you have those things in the skills, then you're in my maybe pile. And then this is when I'll go back and look at your expertise exactly for this. Do you take initiative? Do you solve problems? Can you handle increasing responsibility? Your bullets need to tell that story. And then from that, we read it down to the short list of people. So this isn't your life story. You don't need to include every single responsibility you've ever had. Focus on achievement that are relevant to the job you're applying for. Quality over quantity always in this section. Okay, so this slide shows the transformation that separates successful candidates from the pack. The difference between a duty and an achievement is the difference between getting ignored and getting interviews. So look at the weaker example. Responsible for inventory management. This could be written by anyone who's ever worked in supply chain. It tells me nothing about your performance, your scope, your impact, or your value. This is a job description. It's not a success story. So now look at the strong example. Every word is intentional. Streamline shows that you've improved something, not just maintained the status quo. 200 plus SKUs gives me scope. It tells me what the story is. This isn't managing just like a few items. It's real complexity. 25% reduction in errors proves measurable impact. So let me break you down why each component matters. Action verbs matter because they show ownership and initiative. Do not use a passive voice like was responsible for. Use active voice like managed, optimized, implemented, reduced. The context gives the recruiter something to evaluate. Managing inventory for 10 SKUs is different from managing inventory for 1,000. Working in a 10K budget is different from 10 million. Give them a scope so they can assess the fit. Impact proves you just don't do the task, you deliver results. Even if your improvement seems small, 5% faster or 2 days earlier or 3 fewer errors, that shows you pay attention to outcome. So it is important. So the format naturally incorporates keywords like inventory tracking, SKUs, reducing errors. These are all terms that appear in supply chain job postings. So when you're using these terms and you're naturally telling in the bullets what you're doing and what you've achieved, you're already using keywords that are likely coming from the job posting just by doing your everyday work. So here are some examples that show the same formula across experience levels. So you're going to notice the progression in scope, responsibility, and impact as we move on. So for the entry level, here's an example. Led a 5-person capstone team analyzing Tesla's supply chain, identifying 10% cost reduction opportunities. So they're not apologizing for being a student. They're showcasing their leadership, their analytical thinking, and their business impact. The fact that it's an academic problem or it's an academic project, that doesn't matter because the skills are still real. And so that's something you can highlight. Also notice that they chose a recognizable company name. Analyzing Tesla's supply chain may sound more impressive. It will sound more impressive than analyzing company X. So use the real company names when possible in the academic projects. Mid-career examples. So real business impact with specific numbers. 12 key vendors. Show scope. 300K annually proves significant impact. And improving delivery times show they understand broader business implications, not just cost cutting. And the progression here is very important. They're not just saving money for the organization, they're optimizing performance. That's mid-career thinking. And when it comes to the senior example, strategic scope, organizational impact, financial significance. 6 facilities show enterprise level responsibilities. 2 million EBITDA improvement speaks the language of executives. And network optimization indicates strategic thinking, not tactical execution. So what's important and what's crucial is that each example is appropriate for the level that they're in. The entry level shouldn't claim to have direct transformations because they don't. Senior level shouldn't focus on individual vendor negotiations. You're matching your achievements to the experience level authentically. Oh my goodness, I'm having trouble speaking today. But you also notice that even the entry-level examples show real impact. New grads often think they have no achievements, but academic projects, internships, part-time work, and volunteer experiences all count if you frame them professionally. And that some of those, especially the volunteers, all of them actually might get you ahead from other people that don't have experience. So always put your volunteer experience in. So now we're going to talk about tailoring strategies. Most people do one of two extremes. They send the same resume to every single job that they apply. So they'll create one resume and send it out 100 different times. Or they spend hours completely rewriting the resume for each application. So I'm going to tell you a bit of a smarter way to approach it. It's more of a strategic customization. So you're not going to send the identical resume everywhere, but you're also not starting from scratch every single time you work on your resume. If you're targeting similar roles at a similar level, you need one strong foundational resume. Supply chain analytic positions at different companies have about 80% overlap in requirements. So you really don't have to reinvent the wheel. But if you're targeting very different things, like let's say you're doing an analyst role versus a manager role, or a procurement role versus a logistic roles, then yes, you might need 2 to 3 different base resume versions. Each one emphasizing the different strengths, and each one uses different languages for those particular job postings or job that you're applying to. Then afterwards, regardless of which base you're starting with, you can spend about 15 minutes customizing what matters most. So the top 20% of resumes get 80% of the attention from both the ATS and human eyes. So we're going to make sure we teach you how to customize it so you will be in that top 20%. The summary customization means they're using their exact language. If they say vendor management, don't write supplier relations. If they emphasize cost optimization, that phrase has to appear in your summary. Highlights customization means rearranging and adjusting your bullets to match their priorities. If they list SAP experience, for instance, first in their requirements, it has to be prominent in your highlights. Typically, the top 3 skills that a job posting will post, they usually have a list of 3 to 5 skills. Try to keep yours in the same order as them. And your bullet points in your experience also should be in the same order as the skills in the job position. Your experience does need to be customized, leading with your most relevant achievements, but also in the order that they're asking in the job posting. If they're emphasizing inventory management and you have 3 great inventory management bullets, those were the ones that are going to go first. This approach will take about 15 minutes per application instead of 2 hours. And it's more effective because you're strategically targeting what each employer is looking for. Okay, so keywords are literally currency in the ATS world. The more relevant keywords you have, the higher your score. But this isn't about random keyword like shoving into your resume. It's about strategic alignment with what the employer is actually looking for. System keywords are non-negotiable. So if you know SAP or Oracle are in something that they're looking for, they have to be in your resume if you have them. Entry-level folks, even if you only use, like let's say SAP academically, you can still include that in the context, but have it SAP in brackets, academic projects and training. But it still counts, so put it in your resume. So function keywords appear in every single supply chain posting, but context matters by level. So entry level might say coursework in procurement and logistics. Mid-career might say manage procurement processes for automotive parts. And seniors might say develop procurement strategies across global supply chain. Okay, your certification keywords can be game changers as well, especially in supply chain. So Six Sigma, CSCP, CMSM, these are often filtered criteria. In progress counts as well. So if you're actively pursuing a certification, you can put that in your resume. I highly advise that you do that, but you can say expect completion May 2026 or in progress. That shows commitment and it shows that you have it as well, or you're working towards it. Keyword results prove you understand the business impact. Everyone should include them, like optimization, efficiencies, cost reduction, accuracy improvement. These show you're not just task focused, but you're result oriented. And that is very important. But there's a critical rule that most people miss, and it's use their exact terminology. So ATS systems are becoming smarter about synonyms, but exact matches still score higher. So if they say, like we've used this a bunch of times, vendor management in the posting, use vendor management, not supplier relations, not vendor coordination. Use the exact term that they're using. Also pay attention to acronyms versus being spelt out. So if they use EPR, then you use EPR. But if they spell out enterprise resource planning, match that. And you can include both if you have space. But just pay attention to how they're using it in the job posting. Sometimes using keyword variation naturally throughout your resume will be very helpful. Don't just list inventory management and skills and show it in action. So optimize inventory levels, managed inventory accuracy, implemented inventory controls. This gives you multiple keyword hits while showing application. Okay. Here's some common mistakes, and every level makes these mistakes, so I'm going to address them here. For the entry level, the biggest mistake is that you apologize for being entry level. So sometimes I see when I'm working with new grads, only and just in their resume or in their cover letter, So don't write only completed an internship, write completed internship at whatever company. Don't say just academic experience, say gained hands-on experience through coursework and projects. You're also not leveraging academic achievements enough. So that's another massive problem. Some people, and I know at SAIT, our students all have some kind of capstone or case study presentation that they have to do. And it's quite similar in any post-secondary across the country where case study presentations are part of your curriculum. So present that in your resume. So you can say presented supply chain analysis recommended to a panel of industry experts. All of those case study, well, not all of, but most times, or when you, in your final year, when you do a case study, you present to people from industry. That's called a panel of industry professionals. So it's important that you don't play down what you've done because it's coursework, that you play it up because what you're doing is significant and it does count towards experiences that you will have and gain in your job. So these are the things that will help you get that first job. For those in mid-career, the biggest mistake I see is listing your duties instead of your achievements. And I touched on that a little bit earlier. We all have real experience. And stop telling recruiters what you're supposed to do, like those tasks that you're supposed to be doing, and start showing them what you're actually accomplishing. So, and I also noticed that people aren't quantifying enough. So managed inventory doesn't mean enough. Like optimize inventory levels for 300 plus SKUs, reducing carrying costs by 18%, while managing 99.5% availability. That gives impact. And that's what's going to get you noticed from people that are just putting managed inventory or just dotting down their duties. Some of the mistakes I see with senior levels is that their resumes are too long. And I know it's really hard to cut down 20 years of experiences into 2 pages. And I know some people will say 2.5 pages, 3 pages is enough. But most recruiters nowadays, they're not 2.5 might be okay, but they're not reading 3 and they're not reading 4 pages. That's not happening anymore. So it's really important for you to focus on your last 10 to 15 years. And in some cases, if something that you've done something 15 years ago that's not relevant to this job, then don't put it in. Your last 10 to 12 years is fine. If it's older than that and it's relevant, then you can put it in your resume. But if it's not relevant, just remove it altogether for that. Sorry, if it's relevant to the job position, keep it in your resume. But if it's not, remove it. Sometimes you're using more tactical language as well, and you should be using more strategic language. This is for the senior level folks. So you're not coordinating with vendors anymore. You're developing strategic partnership. It's the scope and language that needs to match the level of what you're doing. So some of the mistakes I see everyone make is that you're trying to be everything to everyone. Your resume should clearly position you for a specific type of role. A scattered resume that could apply to anything and will appeal to nothing. So make sure your resume speaks to the job that you're applying to. Okay, there are some special situations and we'll address them here. So career changers, you're not starting from zero. You're translating your experience. So that project management experience from healthcare, that can work in supply chain. It's about the project management piece. The data analyst from finance, supply chain runs data analysts as well. So focus on those transferable skills and frame everything through a supply chain lens. Use your summary to bridge the gap. So if you have some kind of employment gap, or sorry, marketing professionals transition to supply chain with 8 years of data analysts and vendor relationship experience. So you're not hiding that you've been 8 years into data analyst role. You're not hiding your background. You're positioning as it's a relevant piece to why you're applying to this job. For employment gaps, if they're recent and significant, so more than 6 months, let's say, address them very briefly and matter of factly. So like a career break for family responsibilities or professional development sabbatical, and then you move on. So if you've been let go of a job and it's taking you 12 months to find work, you can say a career break for family responsibilities. Or if you're taking some courses during that time off, like I said, professional development sabbatical. Don't over explain and do not apologize that you have an employment gap. A lot of people do. For older gaps, so let's say it's something that happened 4 or 5 years ago or longer, you don't even have to address them. Focus on what you've done recently and the value that you're bringing now. Sometimes people apply to jobs when they're overqualified. And for some recruiters, this could be a code for you're too expensive, or you'll leave when something better comes along. In my opinion, don't hide your experience, but emphasize the fit and the genuine interest in this job. So your summary might say seeking hands-on operational role if you're stepping back from an executive level. So it's in that summary, you're kind of explaining what's going on. So let's say you have multiple industries, emphasize the most relevant experience, even if it's not the most recent. So if they're retail and your last role was manufacturing, but you have retail experience from 2 jobs ago, lead with the retail context in your summary. So for those of you that have done contract or consulting work, group it strategically. Instead of listing, like, let's say every 3-month contract separately or every 6-month contract separately, create a section like supply chain consulting, let's say from 2020 to 2024, and then bullet out the different engagements and outcome that you have. The key is to be proactive about addressing potential concerns rather than hoping that they won't notice, okay? But not being apologizing for some of those concerns either. Oop, oop, oop. Excuse me, I apologize. Okay, we've just done this. Here we go. Okay, this, I think, the next couple of slides, I think you're going to find very, very valuable, and it's to how we can use AI to work with and combat, I guess, if you will, the ATS system. So what I'm about to give you now is a little bit of insider knowledge that will give you a massive advantage. So most people treat all ATS systems the same, but they're not. Each has their own quirks, their own preferences, and their parsing patterns are different for each one, and we can optimize that. So what's important here is being able to identify the ATS system that the employer that you're applying to is using. So how to do that? You start with the job posting page. So it's not often going to be found on the LinkedIn page. It's going to be found on their careers page on the company's website. And you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. And oftentimes you're going to see something that says powered by Workday or something similar. And it could say Toledo, it could say Lever. But that is where it's going to tell you what specific ATS system that company is using. If it's not there, then you look at the application URL, and it will direct you to workday.com or toledo.net. That's their system. So look at that. And if it's still not obvious, then you Google the company and you put the company's name plus the career ATS or applicant system. Often their systems will be mentioned in a tech blog, or the company will, the ATS company will highlight that they're working with them. You will find it somewhere. So once you know what system they're using, you can optimize your resume specifically for the ATS system that company's using. This is like knowing which test format you're taking before you even have to study for the test. Every system weighs differently the elements. So it's super helpful to know what system they're actually using. So you can use AI to research the system. So one of the questions you can ask AI is, what are the parsing quirks Workday for what are the parsing quirks of Workday ATS? Or how does Toledo handle PDF files? Because not every ATS system likes PDF. You'll get specific guidance about formatting and optimization when you're using those prompts. You can also use AI to optimize your content. So for instance, I'm applying through Workday ATS. Here's the job posting and my resume. Optimize my resume for Workday's parsing while matching their keywords. It isn't always about keywords. It's also about understanding how the specific system reads and scores resume. Some systems give more weight to the skills section, where others give more weight to the experience section. So AI can help you adjust not just what you say, but how you structure it for maximum compatibility to those employers' specific system. This level of strategic preparation separates you from every other candidate. So you're actually going in with a bit of a cheat sheet because you've figured out what ATS system they're using, and AI can help you make your resume stand out for that specific ATS system. Okay, so here are some prompts that you can copy. You can take a picture of this page if you like. I know a copy of this presentation will be sent to you after next week, but here are some prompts that you could use that could help. There's no guarantee, but it can help you get to the next stage. So prompt 1 is your keyword discovery tool. So just copy the entire job posting and ask AI to extract everything. You'll be surprised what you missed on your manual read. The AI will catch keywords buried in paragraphs and identify subtle requirements you might have overlooked. So ask the AI to rank keywords by importance based on how often they appear in the posting. If inventory management appears 7 times, it is more critical than something mentioned only once. For the second prompt, this is your optimization powerhouse prompt. This is where you tell the AI exactly which system you're optimizing for and give both documents to work with. So your resume and the job posting. Some of you might not be comfortable with having your name and your city and your phone number and your LinkedIn uploaded on your resume when you're putting it in to a ChatGPT or a Claude AI. Just remove that section where it shows who you are and just copy and paste from the summary for the highlights below. So, or the summary rather, and below. So just remove your personal information if that's something you're worried about, which is a fair thing to be worried about. Okay, so the AI can match their language to your experience while keeping everything truthful. The key instruction here is always tell the AI to keep facts identical. They're optimizing presentation, not inventing experience. This is something you have to be very careful for. And often if you don't ask them to keep things truthful, they are going to embellish your experience so that you'll have the best ranking for the ATS system. So once you've done this, make sure you reread your resume, and the bullets and the experience are actually factual, all of it, the summary, all of it. Because sometimes the ATS, if you don't have that keep everything truthful part of it, will embellish your experience. So AI isn't here to replace you. We still have to use critical thinking skills, and we still have to reread to make sure that the resume that you're presenting matches you and your experiences, and you're comfortable with the information that's there. The third one, the strengthening your bullets without changing the substance. So the AI has access to thousands of strong action verbs and can suggest more impactful ways to describe what you actually did. So ask AI to provide 3 to 4 different options for each bullet so you can choose which one that sounds most like your voice. So again, it's you created the bullet initially, and you're asking them if they can choose something, or asking them to enhance your bullet or look at your bullet to enhance those words, but it's still starting from your voice. Prompt 4 is your compatibility check. So different ATS systems have different formatting preferences, and this catches potential issues before you submit. So compare my resume to other successful supply chain resumes and identify what I might be missing. This gives you a benchmark insight. But what you're missing, you may not have that skill, but at least you know this might be something that will be brought up in an interview, and you can figure out ways to address it. Or you can just, not everybody's going to have everything on a resume. So, and that's okay too, but at least you know what is missing. Remember, your AI is your research assistant and a writing coach, not your biographer. So it helps you to present your real experiences more effectively, but it's not writing it for you from scratch. You're writing it first, and it's going to enhance what you've written. So here's some key takeaways. These 5 principles will serve you regardless of changes in technology or trends. They're based on how humans and systems actually behave, not on what we wish were true. So number 1, format for robots first. This is tough, especially if you're creative or if you've invested in a really pretty resume. But the reality is, the prettiest resume in the world is useless if no humans can ever see it. Boring gets through, creative gets blocked. So once you're in a conversation with a human, your personality and your experience will shine then. Principle 2, keywords are currency. This isn't about gaming the system, it's about speaking the language your potential employer is already using. If they're saying that I've been using vendor management, I'm sorry for the whole presentation, but if they say it repeatedly, they're telling you this matters. So use their language, not your preferred synonym. Principle 3, show impact appropriate to your level. This is about authenticity and positioning. Entry-level people don't need to sound senior, but they shouldn't undersell their academic achievement. You got a 3.5, you put that you have a 3.5 GPA. Show those achievements. And senior people shouldn't focus on tactical details. They shouldn't inflate beyond reality either. And the 4th principle, efficient tailoring beats complete rewrites. This is about sustainable job searching. If you're spending 4 hours customizing every application, you're going to burn out, or you're going to start applying to fewer jobs. So 20 minutes of strategic adjustment is sustainable and effective. And principle 5 is use technology strategically. AI and ATS intelligence aren't advantages for tech experts. They're available to everyone. The people who succeed are those who use available tools intelligently, not those who ignore them out of principle. So your experience has value whether you're just starting out, changing careers, or leading organizations. Today's goals was ensuring that value actually gets seen by the people who matter. Okay, so we're near the end, and I'm going to transition now into my career mentor. So this is something I'm very excited to tell you about at SAIT. So if you found this helpful, and if you found the ATS, the LinkedIn presentation helpful, this is part of a program that we've recently created at SAIT called My Career Mentor. We developed My Career Mentor specifically for professionals who know that they want to want to advance in their career, but they're not 100% sure how to get there. So this program is not necessarily for people who are in school. It's for people who have work experience, who are trying to get their first job, who may be in a career that they're trying to pivot, or who may have been laid off or looking for a brand new job. This is who we've created this platform for. So there are two streams to this program. One is a career mentoring stream where we take a look at your LinkedIn, we take a look at your resume, we help you with your personal branding, we help you with networking skills, understanding what kind of environment is going to work best for you. And we work on you one-on-one to make sure you're setting yourself up for success when you're out looking for a job. We'll help you with your interview prep as well. So we'll look at the job description that you've gotten the interview from and ask you specific questions that will help you prepare for those interviews, and will help you with your star stories so you're ready to put your best foot forward at the interview. The career coaching, on the career mentoring, we are going to tell you what we think you need to change for those resumes. We're going to give you our advice for prepping for an interview, for your personal branding, for networking. On the career coaching side, there's no advice giving. And next week, you will see a career coaching experience. So you're going to watch me coach a colleague through a problem. So you're going to understand what the situation is and what coaching looks like and what you can get out of coaching. So the coach is not providing advice. The coach is asking questions, deep questions, questions that challenges people's assumptions and helps people see a problem through different lenses so they come up with their own solution, and then we help hold you accountable to those solutions. So we help you create a roadmap on what you're going to do, and then we help you achieve what those goals were that you've set out for yourself. So supply chain members receive a 20% discount for these services. So typically we charge $200 an hour. For supply chain members, that drops to $160. And we have different bundle prices. So the bundle price will be reduced by 20% as well. So you will get absolutely the best price from anyone if you are interested in this program. So if this is something that you're interested in, here's a QR code that will enable you to book a 30-minute free consultation with me, where we have a conversation. We learn, I learn about where you are in your career, what you're hoping to achieve, and we figure out what stream will work best for you. And then from there, you'll have access to the 20% discount, and you can book your session with either myself or any of our other coaches that we have. One thing I failed to mention about the coaching stream, all our coaches are ICF certified. So that's International Coaching Federation, which is the gold standard of coaching. So everything that you say to your coach is completely confidential by our standards. We cannot share anything with anybody. So it's completely confidential. And we don't keep records of our conversations either. So so this is it. Hopefully you found this helpful, and I'm ready for any questions if you may have any.
Awesome, Sarah. Thank you so much. That was incredible. I think a lot of people just had their aha moments right there, and about why exactly why their resumes are being disappearing, right? So, thank you so much for decoding ATS systems for us. All right, now as Sarah mentioned, now it's your turn. So keep those questions coming through the Q&A button at the chat or the chat box. We'll get through as many as we can. We have about 20 minutes here, so we've got plenty of time to go through many of those. And thank you guys for sending in a lot of questions already. So we'll just start off with a few questions that we have already received. The first one being from Roma. She's asking if screening is instant, why are candidates notified as quickly? Well, I think what she's trying to share is why does the notification not go as quickly if the screening is instant as they upload their resumes in the system?
So why are they not being notified that they're not
Yes.
through? It depends on the ATS system, I think, and it depends on how the companies have set it up. Their goal is to hire someone, and it's I feel like it sounds a little bit heartless, but their goal is to find the right fit candidate for the job that they're looking for. So
Yes.
the number one focus of when they're putting out a job. So they're that's the focus, really. So it isn't about telling people, and listen, there's 1,000 people applying to jobs, and yes, nowadays it's easy just to send an automated email, but the only time people typically will hear back if they're not selected is when they've gone through an interview. And honestly, I've worked with people that haven't heard back and they've made it through the second round of interviews.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, yeah, it just depends on the company and what they, and it also shows you the value systems of the
Yeah.
companies as well. But I think my answer to that is the focus is on finding the right person. It's not so much the focus on the people that make it through.
Yeah, and what I have observed as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, a lot of notifications go out when the job posting gets closed. So if it is on
Sometimes.
there, yeah, the screening system wouldn't send you notification as long as the posting stays alive. And then a lot of recruiters would constantly keep that posting live just so that they have those pool of candidates for the next time when they need to be hiring for the same role. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. So I was working with someone actually this week, and we were looking at a job that they were thinking about applying to. So it was during one of our one-on-one sessions, and I
Yeah.
went to look at the job posting just also to see what ATS system they're using, and I
Yeah.
saw different job postings, and the job postings are still showing up on their website, but they haven't closed it, and the due date was like 2 years ago. So
Oh,
it was for a 2024 job posting that still showed active on their job site, so on their job board. So yes, um, it's a little bit different now than when I was recruiting a couple of years, like a number of years ago, when we couldn't find enough candidates. Now there's so many different candidates. So do they need to keep a same pool, a constant pool of candidates all the time? I don't think so, but I just think if companies don't close the job posting, you're not going to get that notification. But honestly, companies for the first many times they're going to tell you when you're applying a job, you're only going to hear from them if you're moving on to the next round. So that's part of it as well. It's
yeah.
again, it's about their focus.
Yeah. I think a better way to navigate would be to not take it personally and just take it objectively. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And let's be
Yes.
honest, if you're using a resume that didn't that is an ATS compatible, the ATS doesn't even know that you applied. You're never going to get an email if they don't know your resume is there.
Yeah. That's very valuable. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And I'm starting to see a lot more questions coming in. So thanks, guys, for that. A lot of questions around how they cater their resume, how they build their resume, what to include, what not to. one of the questions being from Nathan. Nathan is asking, when putting your LinkedIn on your resume, your LinkedIn link or something like that, is it better to put a hyperlink in the Word file of your resume or paste the actual LinkedIn URL, which is linkedin.com/username or whatever, right?
Yeah, I think if you use your either way is fine. Like as long as if you do the hyperlink, triple check that the hyperlink is working. I've had many times where people put a hyperlink and it went nowhere. So if you're going to use the hyperlink, make sure it's working. I'd say honestly on mine, on my I mean, I have to update my resume, but I don't have a hyperlink. I use like the old fashioned way. When I was recruiting, I did both. But what nothing frustrated me more is when someone put a hyperlink and it didn't work. But if you had a really good resume, I still looked. Just
Yeah.
saying.
On the ATS side of it, does ATS render those hyperlinks well, or how does
That's
that
a
work
good
on the?
question.
Mm.
I have to double check. I'm not 100% sure when it comes to the hyperlink, so I don't want to give you some false
Mm.
information, but I can double check and get back next week and let you when we
For sure.
meet.
Yeah. I think that would be really
But
insightful. So yeah, thank you so much for that, Sarah. Um, yeah, while we are at it, a few more questions on how to share their experience section. One of them coming from Bill. He is asking, I was told once that saying more than 10 years experience or more than 15 years experience on a resume was better. But then also there is another school of thought that says 25 years of experience of showing on a resume would create age bias. So what are your views, Sarah, on that age bias factor that contributes in?
I agree. There is age bias. I use 10 to 15, I use 15 years for me. If I were to apply, I would update it to 15, not 25.
Right. Okay. So that would be like overdoing it, having
Yeah.
25 years
And then
experience on.
if you're worried about that and you have education, don't. So I graduated from university in 1998. I
Hmm.
don't put the date I graduated in university on my resume.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think that is a
So
good way to show to hide it when you graduated. But then again, I think there is another factor to it about LinkedIn, right? So on LinkedIn, would you again hide it or show
I
it?
can hide it on LinkedIn so it sees you can see it, but I do hide it initially so that I can get through the ATS, and then they get to meet you and they have a chance to form an opinion. But ageism is a big problem in in places where there's higher unemployment rate. It's a problem, so you have to do whatever, like you have to do what you can to kind of combat that. And one of that is once they meet you and they get a chance to know you, it's a totally different story, but we have to get in the door. And so you can do those little things to help you get through the door. As a recruiter, when I was looking at people, I would honestly, I didn't scroll down to see when they graduated. I was looking on their LinkedIn for the skills. So you need
Yeah.
them to get a chance to see what you're doing and your skills.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is one of the major concerns of our attendees here because I'm seeing a lot more questions around employment gaps too. Like how do they show them? One of the questions that has come from Heather, they're asking beyond your current role, start date, and present, on past experience, do you still need to show the start date and end date? And how do
Yeah.
you manage unemployment gaps? And same is Kim's question as well. So a lot more questions around that.
Okay. Well, I think everyone has, how do I say this? Well, Alberta, we always go through ups and downs, and like there's massive layoffs probably like every 5 years or so in Alberta, but other parts of the country don't experience that the same. But employers know when we're going through a downturn that people have gone through that have been laid off or looking for work. One of the ways, though, when you are laid off or looking for work, go to a continuing education, take a Udemy course, show that you're doing something other so that you have now a gap like educational sabbatical, so that you show you're doing something else during that gap. If your gap is because you're taking care of a family member, which in Canada, many people are taking care of family members, and sometimes that means you have to quit your job and you have to care for whomever. That's a family gap, a career gap because of a family situation. That's it. You don't have to explain what it is. That is something that may or may not come up in an interview, but you don't apologize for it. This is the situation, and this is what I was doing. I know it's scary. I think I've worked with some people who, some stay-at-home moms who stayed home because their kids to look after their kids, and then they got to high school and they decided to go back to work. And yes, there's a big gap in your work experience, but oftentimes those moms did volunteer work. So those volunteer work that you did is still skills. You're still gaining skills in those. Often you could be the accountant for a sports team for your kids. You could be doing a manager position, whatever. You can list those. And if you want to book a 30-minute consult or you want to work with one of our career advisors for those individual situations, we're happy to work with you one-on-one on how to work on that, on your resume and what you can do. But basically, there's always ways to show that you've done some work in any of those type of situations. I hope I
Yeah.
answered the question.
No, yes, exactly. I think that's so valuable. So, yeah, thank you so much for that. And a lot more questions have been coming around exactly understanding the ATS system better. So, what works and what doesn't. Another question from Bill asking if there is a certain format that works better. For example, if there is in work experience mentioning handled a portfolio worth $5 million. So should it be written as $ 5M or should it be written as 5 and then 6 zeros
That's
or
a
what
really
does?
good question. I think it depends on the ATS system. So that could be one of the AI prompts that you use. So it's really, and if you don't know what, I mean, I showed you how to figure out what the ATS system is. I have ones where I haven't been able to find, but the Googling it has been able to help me. But I would use an AI prompt for that and ask, this is the position, this is the ATS system that the company is using. What does this ATS system prefer? And put it in, like, do they prefer 2 million like this, or would they prefer me writing it out? So I think the ATS, that would be a perfect example for an AI prompt.
Nice. Yeah. No, thank you so much. And I think that is so important, right? Using AI to its best potential to help you find the job that you want, how to apply for that job, and just asking those questions in to understand what works and what doesn't, right? And maybe even doing an A/B testing to see what works and what doesn't, right? So those can be really helpful.
One
Yes.
thing I do want to stress is that it's very easy for recruiters when they get it to tell who's used AI and who hasn't if you're using AI to write it from scratch. So
Mm,
it's so important for people to do the work themselves and then have AI go in and fix it or change it or improve the verb, but it's still coming from you and it's
right.
less likely to sound like a machine wrote it. It still will sound
Mm,
like you. So that is
exactly.
one thing. Make sure, like your cover letters, and all of that, that you are writing it first, and AI is just helping you polish it up, if you will.
Yes, yeah, no, I think just understanding the fact that you're applying and using AI to fasten things up, making the process quicker so that you can apply to more and more jobs and having that quantity of jobs that you want to apply to so that you could hear back because the number makes a huge difference to the number of jobs that you're applying. So I think AI could really help quicker the process of applying, but it would still it should still have that human component to it to see if a human is applying or it's all AI from the scratch, right?
But I
So,
think use AI still because companies are using AI to weed you out.
Exactly.
Why not use AI to beat their system? That's
Yeah, robots against robots.
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. No, thank you so much for that. A lot more questions on ATS. One another being, and I think I've read this question a lot of times before too. So this one's from Roma. Is application timing critical to be reviewed? That is, being an early applicant, or does it matter since ATS screens over a fixed period of time? Thus, the application time matters.
It can matter. And I think it depends on the system. So, and I'm unfortunately I can't remember which one, but there are some that almost if you see if you see a job that you like, don't wait 2 weeks to apply for it. Like almost apply right away because there are some that will, it's the first group because they do it in different groups. So if they already have amazing people in the first group, they may not continue to look if they already have a large number of applicants. But in some cases, some of the smaller companies may not have this, they might be waiting till the position is closed. If it's a union environment, they have to wait until the position is closed and go through all of it. So it just really depends on, I know at State we're union and we put in a job and we give it 2 weeks. It has to by union. We either have 1 week or 2 weeks, depending on the job classification. At the end of the week, we stop accepting, but we can go in and look throughout. And our applicant tracking system, which is Lever, will accept job applicants throughout the whole time. And I can look from day 1 to day 5. So some will do that, but some will stop. Those bigger companies, when you're getting thousands of people applying, it might just be at the very beginning. So don't wait.
Right.
But some will. Like it's hard. Use the AI, use ChatGPT, Claude AI, use like Copilot, and it might be able to give you that answer for that specific ATS system that they're using.
Nice. And in terms of lever, when you open up the ATS system on the employer side of it, how does it sort the applicants? Does it sort based on the date they applied, or does it sort based on the scoring that ATS system is giving to a certain applicant?
Every day for me, when I'm doing it, I get a score for the applicants that apply that day. And then I can then weed them out. And so typically what I do is I'm one of the few that go in every day, but it's because of my recruiter background and I like that stuff. So I go in and I look and I look at who's ranked first and I look at them based on their rankings. And then I put them in a short list so every day I shortlist people. But
Right.
some my colleagues will wait till the end and
Mm.
then they're all ranked and then I don't even know if they go through all of them. Most of them
Right.
don't. So they'll just go through until they find enough shortlist people who
Mm.
from the rankings that and then they'll shortlist and then they might even only look at 6,
Mm.
because we only need 5, let's say, and they'll wait till they get their top 5 and then they stop looking.
Wow, nice. And I think one of the takeaways for this question particularly could be that as soon as you come across a job posting, apply as soon as you can, regardless of how the ATS system is going to render it. Even if it is not going to accept it, at least you are giving yourself a chance to see if it does, right? And for some, maybe the recruiter might just open it at the very end and you just applied one day before the deadline and you might have ranked in top 5 and you get into the short list, right? So never really know what goes on the other side of things, but what we can control is just applying on the jobs and making sure that we are giving our best, right?
But I also want to stress, if you find a job that you just happen to find and it's the day before the end date, still apply.
Yes.
So
So true.
still apply.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, thank you so much for that. I know we are approaching the end of it. We have a couple of more questions. So the last one again coming from Nathan. He's asking about the folks that are in career change. So especially for them, is it better to put your education, work experience, volunteering section first, or and work experience after? So education first and work experience after?
It depends. No, I still think you should put your work experience. I think what you need to do is highlight your transferable skills. So if you, I mean, I've worked with people who were executive chefs that went back to school and became a robotic process automator. And he still had his executive shape because there are still transferable skills. So I think you still have to show the jobs that you've done. In your summaries where you can talk about going back to school and learning and who you are. And in those competencies or those skills sections where you're going to have your bullet points, bullet point your new skills, but you still, the education will show up at the bottom, because if you're still a career changer, in my opinion, you have a ton of work experience and it still counts. It still very much counts.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm sure Nathan could take a lot from there because he's also from a similar background. He has worked in kitchen before as a chef, and now he's transitioning onto working in supply chain, right?
Well,
So
Nathan, book a free 30-minute with me and I'll talk you through it.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So again, I would like to thank you, Sara, for taking out time today. We are at the end of our Q&A session, so we'll wrap it there. So thank you so much for your clear guidance, your actionable roadmap on how to get through the ATS system and start getting interviews. I'm sure that's a game-changing thing for everyone here today. And thank you guys for asking such great questions and investing your time in career development on a weekend. What's coming up is the recording and the slide deck for this particular session as well. As I have mentioned in the beginning, the recording of today's session and Sara's slide deck, including those ATS-friendly resume templates that if you might have, Sara, we could include those in the thank you email as well. So would be email at the end of our 3-session series, which is going to end next Saturday. So feel free to look out for those. And yeah, once again, I would like to thank you, Sara, for your time, expertise, and making ATS systems feel less like an impossible mystery and more like something that we could actually beat. And everyone here today, you're doing great work by showing up right from session 1 to this session to now heading into session 3 next Saturday. And you are actively building it up step by step, week by week. So that's great progress. Your resume after today would no longer feel disappearing anymore. I'm sure you'd be able to navigate ATS systems better. We would love to see you next Saturday again on January 31st for the session number 3. And that would be at same time next Saturday and using the same Zoom link. So let's finish it off strong and have a great rest of your afternoon, wherever you're joining us from across Canada. It was a pleasure having you with us today, and let's continue to build strong careers together. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.